So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Oil and Gas Technology Centre stand at Offshore Europe. This is the third in a series of leadership discussions and Q&As we've been doing during the course of the week on technology. We've got a great panel today, starting with Archie Kennedy, the chair of the Oil and Gas Technology Centre. Archie has over 35 years' experience in the industry. He's been the MD of Nexen most recently, but also prior to that, the MD of ConocoPhillips. He's also a non-executive director of Bibby Offshore. We've also got Paul Leeuw with us, fresh from his previous speaking engagement and catching his breath. Paul has 30 years' experience in the oil and gas industry, working for companies like Shell, Marathon, Amoco, BP, Venture, and Centrica Energy. He's now the director of the Oil and Gas Institute at RGU, and we're delighted to have him here today. And last but not least, Judith Thorpe, director of Thorpe Molloy. Jude and our fellow director Karen established Thorpe Molloy in 1997, specialising in accountancy recruitment, but now they recruit across a wide range of roles and disciplines. She's an ambassador for the Prince's Trust and also a member of the board at the Aberdeen and Grampian Chamber of Commerce and the Developing Young Workforce Initiative. Now, I asked each of our panels what they would have wanted to be if they'd not ended up in the oil and gas industry. Always a dangerous question. So Paul would have wanted to be James Bond with life insurance. Archie would have wanted to be the AA man with his motorcycle and sidecar. And Jude wants to be an actress. Good luck, everybody. Good luck. Let me just give you 1 or 2 minutes briefly on the Oil and Gas Technology Centre. So established earlier this year on the 10th of February, it's backed by the UK and Scottish governments to the tune of £180 million to inspire, accelerate and fund technology in the North Sea. Industry-led, against these 5 themes on the wall behind us, the Oil and Gas Technology Centre is working with technology providers, with service sector and also with operators to accelerate the deployment of technology across the UKCS. Now, let's turn to the subject matter of the day and go to Jude first, I think, on this. So, skills and behaviours for this tech transformation, this technology-enabled future. How do you see it?
Do I have to use the
Yes, please. Yes. Yes, you do. No, we need it.
I don't want to use the microphone. Well, I was fortunate to be invited to a presentation last night where Sir Clive Woodward was speaking about raising the bar and developing a high-performance team. And I think that should surely be the discussion today. Actually, it doesn't really matter in terms of introducing technology. It's about producing or working together to have a high-performance team. So I'm really only here because Colette Cohen asked me, and I, quite frankly, who says no to Colette? But I'm looking forward to an interesting discussion, and I'll perhaps drop some of the nuggets that Sir Clive shared last night.
Thank you. Paul, your views on this subject.
All right. So I think we're going to be in for a very, very different world. I mean, if you look back, I think a huge amount of jobs we currently have didn't exist 20 years ago. If you look at the speed of acceleration of technology, I think we see a complete transformation around the jobs. We're going to have jobs like robotics manager, data analytics managers, jobs we don't even can think of, dream of, we don't even know what the title is. And I think the excitement, not just for me, but I think for any generation, is to be part of that revolution and not be a victim of it, shape it rather than be on the end of it. So I think it's going to be a really quite exciting world.
Thank you very much. Archie.
Okay, so adding to the 2 points around team and the change and the pace of change, I think we've got to also manage the risk and be prepared to take the risk. I think we've lost the habit to some extent of going forward and managing the risk, bringing new technologies forward, and also getting out of the status quo. We don't need people who will manage the status quo. We need people who will be prepared to generate a culture of innovation and be comfortable in a culture of innovation. That's not just the technology developer, but also the person who might be putting the operator, putting the technology to work. So a change of culture sits alongside the team and just that general change of pace.
So how much of an issue is the current mindset and behaviours? What's that shift going to look like over the next 5 to 10 years, or maybe sooner, given the pace of change?
I'm involved in the board of DYW, which is developing the young workforce. And I think even at absolute grassroots level, education level, my daughter's just started S1. This week she's had a technology lesson and she was drawing straight lines. And I said, what were you drawing? What were you modeling? What was the purpose of that? Well, we just have to freehand draw a straight line. But I'm not sure, that's S1 in its early stages yet. But one of the other clubs was computing for girls, coding and computing for girls. And I was talking to Katie about this earlier as well, because I think that's wrong. I think it's wrong that it should be computing for girls. Katie saw it as being a good thing, but I think actually, why is it not just coding and computing? And how much of this is going on? At the moment, it's a club, and they're starting to make it more mainstream. They're doing it in their lessons, but it's got to be transformational. It's got to be a lot more exciting and a lot more applicable. And people need to be able to see, I'm drawing a straight line because I'm designing some piece of kit that's going to revolutionize the oil industry or whatever it is.
Paul, how does this feel from an academic point of view inside a university?
Oh, I don't know that, but I know what I want to do is right, Andrew, is maybe follow up on the question. How many of you here are over 35? You just put your hands up, over 35s? Here, Archie, come on. Okay. So it's really interesting. If you look at the new generation, so the baby boomers and the Generation X is kind of the ones where I'm certainly part of. But there's a new generation under 35, which are the millennials and Generation Z. And their whole thinking, approach to work is completely different. And what I worry about, back to your question, is that we really taking my generation thinking, I don't tell you which one it is, thinking, and we perpetuate that. We need to have that new thinking coming through. Rather than solving our problems the old way, open source a problem. Let people who are not in the industry think about how can you actually address it. And that is, I think, is the new way of thinking I would be looking for.
Absolutely. Archie, from the perspective of, I guess, your previous roles as a managing director, how have you sort of affected this change in the past? What have you done within organisations to promote this new thinking?
Well, I think historically we actively hired young graduates, brought them through a program, but it was with a slightly different approach in mind. It was to develop a career over 20 or 30 years, but that just doesn't happen anymore. Nowadays, people change career, change industries, and what I think we've got to project ourselves as the oil and gas industry is putting challenges out there that are technical, all kinds of challenges, so that people are excited to work for the next 18 months, 5 years, and then they'll build those skills, and they'll either keep going within oil and gas, or they can use those skills, the project management skills that you learn here, you can take to the water industry, to trains, to whatever. Yeah. So I think we need to be much more dynamic and put opportunities in front of people, but on a shorter time frame, not on a 30-year time frame, on a kind of 18 months time frame. Absolutely.
We've talked a bit about how we attract new talents and different skills in, but if I'm sitting as a woman or a man in the workforce of today, isn't this a bit scary for me, this transition, and what does it mean for the role that I do right now?
Yeah, I think it is actually, it should be exciting, but it could be perceived as being scary. And there's one thing we're going to do, which I hopefully addresses the current workforce. We're going to do a project with Opito, which we're going to start very soon, and is looking at the workforce in the UK. We're going to look at what's the current workforce we're having right now. We can then saying is, if we take that and you look at the activity set in the next 20 years, what does the workforce of the future look like? What is technology going to do to that workforce? How do we deal with all these things, what has been done in this technology center? We need people to operate it and deal with it. And then how do we take that then back in? How do we skill not just a new generation, but the existing people working in the industry to actually be really successful in that industry? So watch this space. Hopefully over the next few months we get some traction, and it will be working with the Technology Centre to make sure we are all aligned in this one.
Thank you. Any questions from the audience? Carl, I can see you again. You're my go-to guy on questions.
So people say that the strength of Aberdeen is in the expertises here, and expertise by definition is specialist. So if you're talking about changing the sort of expertise you need, you're kind of talking about trashing everything Aberdeen has got.
Paul. Pick that one up. The answer is absolutely not. So this basin is absolutely punching above our weight. So if you think about it, we do about 1.2% of the world production here, but we actually have a way bigger impact. And look around you today where people all over the world are here. So the expertise we have here is be used everywhere, be it our subsea underwater technology, what we do here in the Oil and Gas Technology Center, which is pretty unique anywhere around the world. So what I'm talking about is leveraging what we currently have, but get us ready that we are going to not just be the leaders of today, but absolutely the leaders of tomorrow, because other countries do not stand still. And actually, I think the winning technology for us is to export the capability from here. And it fits very nicely with our Vision 2035 for the industry, is start exporting supply chain capability, technology from here all around the world.
And if I could add to that, going back to your question, I think, we've got to just grasp change. And so be at the forefront, whether it's robotics, and introduce technologies that, to be honest, we've let bypass the oil and gas industry. So let's use the Oil and Gas Technology Centre as a springboard for some of that, but we absolutely have to grasp the change, not be Luddite.
Okay, we actually had an MSP on the stand yesterday who was a bit anxious because his son, he was trying to convince him to go and do economics at Edinburgh, and his son wants to go and study gaming technology at Aberdeen. And we said, actually, that couldn't be more appropriate for where this industry is heading. Jude, do you see this in terms of the people that you speak to, the sort of qualifications that are coming through? Is that changing? Is it evolving fast enough?
I don't think it's evolving fast enough. Graham, any comment on that? I think you're
Well, is this like Sunny and Cher now? What are we doing? Right, okay, so thanks. I represent the digital trade body in Scotland, and a huge part of what's going on is skills and actually changing how people are educated in the digital sector. Things like Codebase, initiatives like Codebase, which produces entry-level coders, very, very skilled coders in a 16-week program, are the sort of things that we need to look about when we come to education. So we're spinning education up much faster than we've ever done before, because a 4-year degree is no longer relevant in a digital industry. You're talking about somebody going into gaming. I would advise against it, actually, because gaming is going to become an obsolete set of coding tools moving forward. The coding, the software stuff is here forever. Coding is just software engineering. The key word is engineering, and there's lots of engineers in this space. So we've got to look how graduate level apprenticeships come in, modern apprenticeships come in time learning come in, and teaching, where somebody doing a course for 16 weeks won't be as good as somebody doing 4 years in a degree course. I accept that, but they'll be relevant to the workspace much more readily, much more quickly than somebody doing a 4-year course then being obsolete. And one other point, the average age of person going through Codebase in Edinburgh right now is 32. So they're not 16, they're not 18, they're not 20, they're 32. So really relevant for this industry and repurposing. Over to Cher.
And Aberdeen is getting a Codebase. Is Aberdeen getting one?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
But in terms of software development, though, my brother's got a software company, and when he was developing his software, which was for the automotive industry, it's all about going into online chat rooms or online collaboration, forums. Thank you. Online forums. You get the point. And actually sharing the knowledge and sharing the technology and sharing the learning. And whilst it's competitive, they seem to be much more open to sharing that information. And I'm not sure that Aberdeen is quite there yet. Obviously, the Oil and Gas Technology Centre is there as a hub for that. But are we really there yet?
Paul, what would you say to that in terms of the people that are coming through the institute and through the university generally? There's a lot of international students who study at RGU. How do you see it?
Yeah, so as a university, we're not immune what's happening in the oil industry around us. I mean, the impact of what's playing out, the oil price, the impact what's playing out on Brexit, the impact on playing out just general perception is not, of course, helping. We need to create a new excitement for people to come in. And I think the offer needs to be wider than the traditional university courses of undergrads, postgrads. I think we need to be in the exciting technology around how do you build the robotics, how do you build the visualization, the augmented reality, the deep learning, the artificial intelligence, that bit we need to be in. And I think we haven't grasped that yet. We're there, we're getting there, but there's a long way to go. And that is what is attracting, I think, a new group of students we haven't currently got in this region.
Thanks, Paul. Any other questions from the floor? Stephen?
I've got, I guess, a kind of mundane career advice type question. I have a 14-year-old daughter. Her name's Martha. She's interested in science, maths, technology, and she's always asking me for advice on how she should develop and what she should do. And I would just be interested to hear what your kind of advice would be to someone, a young woman around about the age of 14, interested in science, technology. What would you advise them to do in terms of pursuing a career within the oil industry?
So I'll speak to my own experience with my daughter. So the first thing I would suggest is bring her tomorrow to the schools day, which I did a number of years ago. And that was a great success. And she has just qualified as an engineer. And she's about to start work next week, which I'm very excited about. She didn't choose the oil and gas industry, but she's gone into a technology subject. And so I think that I was a long way positive in that regard. So I think expose her to the likes of this tomorrow.
Judith.
I think any practical experience that she can get, I think through DYW, if she can get and do some work experience, that's actually meaningful work experience, so she can go and not just spend a week doing the photocopying and the filing. And there's a real push to try and change that. But also do as much as you can. So don't do 1 week in your third or fourth year. Do 1 week every year, or as soon as she's old enough to actually go and get a summer placement, do vocational, many vocational placements as she can to experience different environments. And only that way can she actually see it to be it, to experience what she actually wants to do.
So I'm going to build on the two excellent points made already. So the first thing is make sure she's inspired to do something. If you do that, that works a long way. I would advise doing quite a general undergraduate degree, something which actually has many users. That could be, I mean, of course, RGU would be the #1 place, but I'm slightly biased. But a general, good quality undergraduate degree, and then pick that and specialize maybe as a master's afterwards in doing something, if that's her aspiration. You know, I think it is really important to actually do something you want to do, because then you will have passion, do all the exposure, but come to places like this and others to see what is really out there. Because what I think we're missing is we don't show people what is possible. We don't show the excitement. And to hear it from you is probably the worst thing. They need to hear it from somebody else.
Stephen in particular, or just dads in general? Dads in general. I'm going to come over a chat with Cameron. So he's in his 4th year, I think, of an engineering degree.
I am.
What motivated you to go down this path?
Well, what I was going to say before Paul almost said it was, it's really easy, especially in Aberdeen, to be pigeonholed. Engineering. I mean, you can go Aberdeen RGU, great uni for engineering, Aberdeen Uni. I'm at Strathclyde, going to my 4th year. But it's very easy to go, after school I go to uni. After uni, I have my degree, I go and work, and I'm there. It's investigating, as I think Dad Graham said earlier. It's an old habit. A 16-week course, and you're relevant to coding for him. It's trying to be as relevant as you can as quickly whilst being inspired, like Paul said. And it's what Jude said, doing as much as you can, but trying to get out of being that railroad of, well, I've done school, I've got the grades I need. I did Engineering Academy course at Strathclyde, where my first year was with the City of Glasgow College rather than university. And I much preferred that. I like getting my hands on, I like being practical. And I feel instead of the generic first year that is almost cut and paste for unis, having a slightly different twist and a practical education for a first year was really good for me. So it's just trying not to be, just go with the flow, do what you really want to focus on.
You also, there's lots of competitions, and there's lots of projects that you can get involved with as part of the school year, run by the different companies. And I think that to get to see that and to get engagement on that basis would be great.
Yeah. We're back to Stephen again.
So just following on from all of that, which is very good advice, and thank you very much. I wish she was actually here so she could hear it from you rather than from me. Good. Well, I'll make her sure she watches it. What could we do as OGTC then to sort of deliver on that?
Can I just say, I think in the way that we communicate with the schools and with young people has to change, because I think it's the way that, you know, as Paul, one of the first points that Paul made was just the way that the skill set is just moving so fast. And Graham made a point earlier about WhatsApp and Instagram and the new media. So actually sending out an email to the schools, I don't think it's funky enough. I think it's got to be something that's going to ignite their imagination and inspire them, whether it's in video format, whether it's kids actually doing it in a Bugsy Malone style. Sorry, very old cultural reference there, but something like that is really funky, and they go, wow, that is cool, and that is an industry I want to be part of. Yeah. And at the moment, walking around here is boring. Yeah. It is boring. And
or send a real person, send someone in there.
Yeah, just make it more funky.
Any other reaction from panelists on this point?
So not necessarily targeting at the 14-year-old, but we had TechFest 2 weeks ago, and we had busloads, and I mean busloads of kids coming to different places, including the university. And it was just brilliant. You see them walking in 2 by 2, and they're coming out with a smile on their face. And somewhere in between, we inspire them about all kind of exciting things about STEM. And actually, we do need to start way earlier than, I'm sorry to say, at the teenagers, because that inspiration happens probably in primary school. And I think we need to kind of inspire the people, show them what we can do. And I think there's a role for OGTC is take all the cool stuff and maybe combine it with something we do in STEM or anything else, and let them play with robots, let them play with the virtual reality, let them break things, let them just mess things up. I think that would be really good fun, and I want to be part of it. Archie.
Sorry, it's a Gordon family get together at the end. This goes over here. Yeah, we don't speak at home. We only use a microphone. The thing that really works in our sector, you've seen it in London really well in the Central Belt, is if you're in any STEM subject, actually if you're in any career right now, you owe it to a niece or a nephew to tell them about the career you're in and how exciting it is. Doesn't matter if you're in marketing or engineering or you're a CEO. Don't do it to your kids because they very seldom listen to you, but it does sink in after a while. But as professionals, there are all these things that go on, but you owe it to at least one early teenager to say, here's my job and this is what it is. And if you can ignite one person that way, you'll have a much bigger effect, or a much greater effect. It will add to that bigger effect. It works really well in the software industry. Really, really, really well in the software industry, where guys go out and adopt teachers rather than schools. I will teach a teacher what good coding looks like so they can go and teach 500 kids. And if we can do that as adults, you should all do it this weekend. Make sure it's a kid you know. I'm just pointing that out first of all. Otherwise, you'll have a problem. But say, this is what I do in my business. This is my career to date. What's interesting in it for you? And if they go, well, you're a boring old fart, great, but you've done it. Do it once.
Cracking advice. Archie, do you want to pick up on that point?
Well, I think it's you've covered the crux of it. I do think that at OGTC we've got to try and be funky. We've got to be a little bit different. We're building our innovation hub, which is seriously funky. I think we need to actually bring young folks in at an early age and let them play with it. Hopefully not break too much of it because it's quite expensive, but let them come in and see the technology and try and grab them in.
Robin, I know you sit in the technology organisation in BP. How does it feel from a big operator point of view when you're recruiting in the technology space?
Yeah, I mean, I find it quite interesting from what you were saying about the age thing, because I sit next to a group called DIO, which is around doing things like testing out Oculus Rift, and they've got nice toys like drones in the office. We don't have that. We just have investment sheets. And I don't think any of them are under 35, you know, and I look around the organisation and we still bring people in on very standard career paths. I think we're just starting to get some of that digital overlap, but we hire data scientists to do data science. We hire geologists to do geology. You know, yeah, I think we do need to have a rethink about the flexibility of careers and how we can actually make use more of people's skills in general. I mean, I remember, well, it can't have been more than years ago when I went through university. And I did a degree in physics and then geophysics. We all learned coding because we had to. We built our own software. And I think that's been lost a bit, you know, and I think coming back to the coding thing, I'm just surprised by, you know, the fact that my kids are learning coding at university now and it's come back, but it's gone back full circle. And I think that's a good thing, because I think it's a bit like getting your hands dirty with a car. You know, if you haven't written a program, even if it's rubbish, you probably shouldn't be calling yourself an engineer or a scientist.
Yeah, I do think the classic career where you work in a silo, work your way up a technical route or go general management route, I mean, I think that career will change quite dramatically. I mean, of course it will exist because people need to run organizations or need to run companies. But I think the exciting element is to have a far more transnational career, actually doing a number of different jobs, and actually have I don't say a portfolio career as an individual, but I think there's certainly a generation that I see coming up doesn't stick to one company, they move around, and we need to actually recognize that people want to work in a different way. And I think we need to open it up, because that's how we're going to do it. And the other thing I'm actually quite passionate about is the problem solving we do. I find it bizarre when I solve a problem, I ask the people I know. Actually, I know the wrong people probably, because I should open source the issue. And I think until we break through how we solve problems and how we do things, I don't think we even realize what skills we need to actually solve something. Jude?
I think transdiscipline is one thing. So, you know, having a couple of sectors or a couple of backgrounds. But the other thing I would say is that pre-oil crash, there was a huge snobbery in the oil industry where people would not recruit from another sector. And actually, if we're talking about changing behaviours, that is the fundamental thing, that we need to bring in talent and knowledge from out with the oil industry, because as Archie said, the robotics is almost, you know, or some of the technologies bypass the sector. But are we really doing that? And that is a real mindset change. And I question whether or not that's actually happening now. And it's very difficult to attract talent from the Central Belt. And Graham will know this as well. But to get people to come up from different sectors in the Central Belt, there is still a little bit of an us and them culture. And I'm not sure. Aberdeen is becoming a more attractive destination. It's a great place once you get here. It's a great place to live and work, but it's just getting that message out and
absolutely
about that.
So I'm going to give everyone one last chance to ask a question. Okay, we've got two.
David Rennie from Scottish Enterprise. Paul talked about jobs of the future that we don't know about yet. Archie was talking there about oil and gas has been bypassed a little bit, and some other sectors have been more open. Judith made a great point there about that sort of. So how do we change that culture so we don't repeat those mistakes of the past? So behind you, we say create a culture of innovation. That's OGTC's role. But we've all got a responsibility to change that culture. So how do we become more open? It's not easy, but how do we just start that process?
Well, it's a daunting task. Let's put it, not say that this is easy, but I definitely think we need to introduce new technologies that exist from outside the sector. And certainly, as OGTC, we are absolutely going out and reaching out for those technologies and trying to find ways to deploy them quickly. I think at the same time, the cultural change is going to take some time. A lot of that is around how we contract. The sort of lowest bid contract is a model that's overused and tired. And so I think we have to be just as creative in terms of how we contract and bring these technologies, bring skills to the marketplace. And again, it goes back to my opening comment. We have to be kind of brave about that, manage that risk, and just try and promote it every time we can. And when we have the success, let's blow our trumpet.
Judith. Nicely done.
I wasn't ready for this. All right. So I think it's a great question. So it's a couple of things for me. I mean, probably two words jumped to mind when I heard your question. First is Velcro, and the other one is DNA. And what I want to make sure that, building on what Archie is saying, is technology has to stick to everything. Yeah, and for me, it's the Velcro concept. It needs to stick. We need to be far better at doing that. The second thing for me, it needs to go into the DNA of our industry. It is how we operate. It sticks. It happens. It is not like OGTC comes in, we have a solution, and we move on. It has to be part of that. Now, this is a cultural shift, as Archie absolutely correctly pointed out. But the question is can we wait the normal cycle for cultures to work, or does it need a cultural boost? And I think we need a cultural boost on top of that.
Yeah, I'm desperately trying to remember the guy's name, but last year, possibly at the breakfast for the beginning of the offshore Europe, or 2 years ago, was a guy that spoke about the telecommunications, the cable, that they use the cable to transmit data. Do you know the guy I mean? He's like an inventor. He's such a cool guy. I can't remember his name, but I think, celebrating stories like that and actually elevating them and showcasing them and really pushing that message out there, I think is the only way that you can, to celebrate that kind of. Dan, yes, that's it.
Dan Perkins.
Yes, that's exactly the guy. Yeah, but that was really cool. It was a brilliant presentation, because he was talking about getting the cable. Did you see it? Like wireline cable. Yeah. You shove it down the well. Yeah. You can it biodegrades, so you just drop it down the well. So it was a brilliant solution from the telecoms industry applied to the oil sector. So celebrating those kind of stories.
Yeah, thank you, Jude. I'm going to try and wrap us up now. We're just a little bit over time, but I'm going to come to each panelist for one last question, starting with Paul, ending with Archie, Jude in the middle. If you had one piece of advice to someone considering a role in the oil and gas industry of the future, what would it be?
I think get excited and stay excited. I think the one thing about this type of business is, there's a lot of great things happening, and it's just not a series of one-off. Really, this is an exciting business, and be part of it.
Thank you. Jude?
Yeah, I would agree. It's a global industry. Millennials, it's an opportunity to travel around the world. I take the knowledge and expertise from Aberdeen and promote that globally. So, yeah, it's an exciting industry.
And finally, Archie.
And I would just say be passionate about it and learn skills. Keep putting them into your bag, as it were, because you don't actually know what you'll need to do next. So be flexible and passionate.
Panelists, thank you very much. Let's show our appreciation, please.